everyone, I'm Jim Longworth, and welcome to another edition of Triad Today, coming to you once again from our home away from home, the beautiful Cedar Botanical Garden in Kernersville. We'll tell you more about them later on. Later on, by the way, is when our roundtable shows up. We'll get into all sorts of controversial topics, so we hope you stay tuned for that, plus some very special guests along the way. But I'd like to start out by talking about public safety in general and some specific themes with two experts in this field of law enforcement. On my immediate right, a return visitor to the show, Katrina Thompson. She's, of course, police chief for the city of Winston-Salem, and our friend Bobby Kimbrough, who is sheriff of Forsyth County. Thanks for coming back, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
First thing I want to cover is throughout America, not just here in the Triad, but throughout America, folks are talking about, gee, I read about a policeman or a sheriff's deputy that hit a suspect or abused a prisoner or did this or did that. What have you done, if anything, to prevent those kind of incidents from occurring in your department, Chief?
So, first off, misuse or abuse of power is totally not allowed in our agency. When that information is reported to us, we've always done investigations, and our response is as quick as the investigation will allow us in terms of being thorough, but swift and appropriate. So it's constant training, not just a training that is provided to us on use of force by the state, but also training that we give within the organization. We know that there are many things that we can do legally, but also understanding that just because you can do it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it.
Same question, Sheriff.
Well, several things we've done is, one of the things we've done is we have a policy now, what is called obligation to intervene. If you are a deputy, a law enforcement officer, and you see another officer or deputy doing something that's inappropriate, you have an obligation to intervene. And if you don't, you will be subject to termination, up to termination, disciplinary actions. The other thing is that I make a point to go to line up periodically and talk and have open conversations and express that we have zero tolerance for that type of behavior, and let the men and women of the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office know that we're here to do a job. We're not here to police a community. We're not here to keep our thumbs on them. We're here to create a positive reaction. And as you said many times before, we recognize that happens, but our job is to make sure that it doesn't happen here.
And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but across the country, you hear this in some cities, people say, oh, there's systematic racism in this, and there's systematic racism, and there is in some cases. But the things that around here, under your purviews, doesn't seem to be any widespread problem, or am I just coding over something? Is there such a thing as systematic racism in the police department, in the sheriff's department?
So I think the short answer to that is yes, there is systemic racism, and I don't think it stops because you enter the police department. I think what's important, though, is that as law enforcement executives, we do all that we can to use every tool available to us to screen our applicants, our employees, prior to them actually starting working with us, and try to work through that as much as possible, but realizing we will still miss some things, but when those things are identified, addressing them quickly and appropriately.
Yeah, and it used to, you and I've talked about this before, Sheriff, I said, wait a minute, there's a group here saying that this sheriff is racist. Wait a minute, last time I checked, Bobby's black, so I was trying to compute this whole thing. What's your take on this?
Well, what I say all the time is that a law enforcement official has removed itself from that. The obvious is I'm black, she's black, but at the end of the day, we have to do what is right, what is legal, what is moral, not what is black, not what is white, not what is Republican or Democrat. Because at the end of the day, you don't want a black sheriff, you don't want a white sheriff, you don't want a Democratic sheriff, you want a good sheriff, you want a good law enforcement official. And yes, systemic racism exists, but we do everything we can to stamp it out and address it. Even at the sheriff's office, we have instituted every year now, we send our deputies back through the same thing it took to get them hired. Background check.
All right, I want to get like a quick sort of yes or no thing before we lose time. A lot of people saying, let's defund the police, let's defund the sheriff's department. Now there's some legislation out there saying, well, if you do that, cities, we're going to take away some government money. Good idea or bad idea, quickly?
I don't believe that defunding the police is the way to go. I believe there are some issues that we need to address and put money into, but defunding the police is not the way that I believe we should do that.
What about punishing the city if they do defund?
Well, you know, that's a whole other conversation, but I don't believe in defunding the police by no means.
All right.
By no means.
Up on screen, there's a couple of websites you can take a look at to find out more information about what's going on in the police department and the sheriff's department. And I will tell you that in the program note, these good folks will be back with me for next week. We're going to do continue this conversation. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Now on Triad Today, we'd like to spend the next few minutes talking about a wonderful program. It's the Cancer Patient Support Program at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center. And I have a very special guest with us now that's going to help us through this topic. Richard McQuillan, of course, Director of the Cancer Patient Support Program. We welcome you to Triad Today.
Thank you, sir. I'm just glad to be here.
And we've had plenty of your colleagues here that you've mentioned, so we're glad to have you for the first time. Give us just a quick 10 seconds or so on what the program is all about in case someone's just moved into the area.
It's a program of people helping cancer patients manage the initial diagnosis and treatment through survivorship. It's people meeting and talking and listening to people.
Now, you and Justin Gomez each sent me some emails, and I looked at one of them and it said, be sure to ask Richard about Winterlark. So tell us what Winterlark is.
Well, Winterlark is the lifeblood for the Cancer Patient Support Program, as it provides approximately 50% of our operating budget. It's has been a gala ball fundraiser with over 500 people, but of course this year with the pandemic we can't do that, so it's a peer-to-peer activity now. It is the philanthropic arm of the institution that helps us. The Office of Philanthropy and Alumni Affairs are really the backbone behind that activity. Without them, it's difficult to have a program.
Yeah, because a lot of people might just assume that, hey, it's a great program, but since you're such a big university, big medical center, I'm sure that that's all covered, but you do. You rely on the donations, you rely on the fundraiser. Now, how can the community participate? What I picked up on as I'm asking about participation is we're in this pandemic virtual world now. How can people jump in and help with Winterlark?
Well, there are peer-to-peer groups that they can connect with, and I'm sure there'll be a link that will be shown to folks in a minute. This is a unique partnership. Unlike any in the country, really, you have community volunteers. In fact, the roots of the program are in volunteers who saw a need for emotional support for cancer patients in the early 80s. So the community came together with this institution, which also participates with support in our program as well, to form a unique connection with our cancer patients to help heal. Basically, we try to improve quality of life and reduce suffering. Mainly through listening. Our volunteers are really phenomenal people. Of course, with the pandemic, and that's, you mentioned just a moment ago, that has made things much more difficult, which is why the peer-to-peer fundraising is important and why we're looking forward to some return to normality, because our volunteers are the heart and soul of our staff. One of our volunteers is fond of saying, I may not be able to do great things, but I can do small things with great love.
Isn't that something?
That's really the center of the activity is loving, caring for patients in a listening way. Listening carefully, responding thoughtfully.
Why is it so important, especially in times where we do have a lot of people still unemployed and suffering in many different ways? If you do have something you want to give, why is it important to give to this program?
Well, there's so many stories to tell about patients. We're so lucky, all of us. Many of our patients have difficulty with transportation. So we provide funds to help people travel from some of the further reaches of our catchment area.
For doctor's visits and things like that?
I'm sorry?
For doctor's visits or going for treatments or?
Yeah, for treatment visits, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's really it's hard to really believe that's happening now for so many people. The resources are drained, and we are fortunate to have resources. We can help people, and we can do it quickly. Sometimes the social service network takes time. We can do things immediately.
Before time gets away from us, I want to mention a couple things. Of course, the general website is wakehealth.edu, but wakehealth.edu/Winterlark is a specific website that will take you to this. Now, please check that out. They're doing such great work to support cancer patients and their families, and I just appreciate everything you're doing, and I hope you'll come back and give us an update on it. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad to be here. I hope I never see you in our medical center except as a visitor.
Understood.
Okay.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Triad Today, let's talk about students and helping students and supporting students, and why not do that with two experts in that field. With me, a returning guest on my immediate right. Dr. Janet Spriggs is president of Forsyth Tech, and she has brought along a special guest with her, a first-time visitor to the show, Stacy Waters-Bailey, who is executive director of Student Support Services at Forsyth Tech. Welcome, girls. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. So glad to be here.
Dr. Spriggs, Janet, tell me what this, you sent me an email that said Forsyth Tech Cares. So for those that don't know, what is that in a nutshell?
Well, first of all, it is a mantra that we live by. We care. We care about our students, we care about our staff, we care about our faculty, and we care about our community. But more than that, we have institutionalized that and formalized it by creating an office called Forsyth Tech Cares. We had this idea to do this prior to COVID, and we had started looking for funding and talking about how we would set this up as a way to wrap around our students and focus on those holistic needs that students have that are non-academic but that are still critically important for them to be able to succeed.
Now, Stacy, I'm going to ask you to go into a couple of specifics on this, because Janet sort of gave us the overview. What kind of services are we talking about? What kind of support are we talking about?
We are talking about the Life Happens support. We know all too often our students are a flat tire away from not being able to afford to fix the tire, which then means they cannot get to work, which means they cannot go to school. And so what we are able to do now is we're able to assist that student with transportation, food, housing, childcare, lack of access to technology now that we're in the COVID age, and so many of our classes are now being taught remotely. We actually are able to help students seek legal assistance through a partnership that we have developed with Wake Forest Law School and their community law clinic.
So you have business partners that are chipping in.
We have business partners too, yes. Second Harvest is helping us keep food in our Forsyth Tech Connect locations. These are more than just pantries. They have school supplies, they have personal hygiene items. They also have things like your household products, toilet paper, laundry detergent, things that we all have to have but are often very expensive.
Yeah, you know, you don't think about that too often, but these folks, I call them kids because everybody's a kid to me at my age, but you know, trying to learn, trying to work at the same time, trying to get a job, and you know, these barriers have to be overcome, and I appreciate what you're doing in that regard. But now, how is this funded?
Well, it's funded through a variety of sources. The main funding came to us for this through the Kate B. Reynolds Charitable Trust. We had talked with them before COVID, and then as COVID progressed back in the spring of last year, they came to realize, as we did, that it was going to be around for a while and that we were going to have to be mitigating these barriers for our students for a while. So it fits very nicely with the Kate B. Reynolds equity work.
Good folks at Kate B. Reynolds.
Absolutely. And this is all about equity. It's about helping students go farther through the power of education.
Now, we didn't rehearse this, Janet, but I'm curious. We sort of gotten the idea from you and Stacy about why this is important for Forsyth Tech, why it's important to students. Why is this important to the community? Because there are a lot of people that say, well, I don't know anybody in school. I don't, you know, why? I mean, why is this important to the community at large that these students succeed?
Well, we are on a mission, and we have a vision at Forsyth Tech that we are going to make a huge dent in poverty. You know, we're taking it on. I've told you that before, Jim.
Right.
We believe in equity. We believe that education is an equalizer. We think that through the power of education, we can help people move from one low socioeconomic status into the middle class and beyond. And we think that for the community, helping our students get through this educational journey is going to be better for all of society. Our vision statement says that we're a catalyst for equitable economic mobility. The second part of that vision is empowering lives and transforming communities. So from the community perspective, we are transforming lives of students who are going to become transformers of our communities. They stay in our community when they graduate from Forsyth Tech.
As they should, and as I'm glad they are, thanks to you and Stacy and good folks who are helping and partners in the program, and folks like KBR. Before I lose time, let me get to this. forsythtech.edu is up on screen. That's the website. Please check that out. All sorts of great information about courses and other things, but please do that. To Janet and Stacy, thanks for doing this. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back. Hi, today I was looking over my magazine here, Black Business Inc. If you don't have it, you need to get it. We'll give you a website later on where you can get it, Black Business Inc. Why am I holding that up, by the way? I'll tell you why. Because we have 3 special guests with us that are going to help us honor some outstanding leaders who passed away in 2020. On my right, Richard Williams, of course, publisher of Black Business Inc. And we welcome him back after a 6-year absence. Good to have you back. David Daggett and Griff Schuler are partnered back behind us, socially distanced from Daggett Schuler Law Firm, and we appreciate you guys being here.
Thanks, Jim.
I'm going to start, just as a note to the crew, I'm going to start with David. You recently wrote an article for Richards Magazine, and you made some comments about a few outstanding leaders that you missed that passed away in 2020. One was Vivian Burke.
Yeah, all three of those are personal friends of mine. Vivian Burke, you know, we all saw her in public and on the news and that sort of thing. I had the opportunity to get to know her personally. Whenever we were at community events, I sat with her and had a meal with her. She was always so kind and gracious to me, and I have wonderful memories.
Well, and you know, Jim, one of the biggest legacies that you have as a parent is what you leave to your kids, and she has a great legacy to the legal community in her son, Judge Burke.
Right, absolutely. Greg Davis, David.
Yeah, Greg Davis was 10 years older than me. So he was a young lawyer when I was a new lawyer, and when I was wandering into criminal court, told some of those stories earlier, Greg would help me. He went on to become the federal public defender. Greg and I maintained a good relationship all these years. We each chaired various committees for the North Carolina Bar Association. We always worked on each other's committee to bring another perspective. Greg always did that in such a gentlemanly and human manner. I just love Greg. Beautiful wife and daughters.
All right.
Miss him.
Let's go to Dr. Larry Hopkins.
Yeah, Larry, he was on the board of our Safe Sober Prom Night program, along with his wife, Beth. She's a lawyer. And Larry was one of the first black OB doctors in our community. He was also just a football star at Wake Forest, had records back in the day, that sort of thing. Gregarious smile, had such a positive impact.
You knew Larry too, right?
Yeah, a great legend of Wake Forest, Jim. And he was very instrumental in the community. And a little nugget concerning him, he actually was the doctor that delivered Chris Paul.
How about that? How about that? Well, I didn't know that. It's nice trivia. Richard, let me go to you because we don't want to run out of time. You want to mention a couple people. One was a friend of mine, Vic Johnson, who we mentioned a couple weeks ago, and Tom Trollinger. Give me something on that.
Well, Vic served an unprecedented 22 years on the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board, just an institution in the community, and he also was a former educator himself. And he also, just last year, the city recognized the 60th anniversary of the sit-in movement that he and several others in Winston-Salem started on North Liberty Street when they went and sat in the Woolworths. So he was an institution, as was Tom Trollinger. Tom Trollinger started out in teaching as well, went to corporate America, left corporate America as an assistant vice president of purchasing at Wachovia, went into business for himself, had one of the largest minority-owned contract office furnishing businesses in the Southeast. But the interesting thing, Jim, that each of these individuals that I just mentioned and what Griff and David mentioned as well, was they were not only leaders that blazed trails, they were mentors who also brought someone along with them on that trail.
Right.
So when you look at the school board, when you look at businesses in the community, Tom Trollinger's fingerprints, Vic Johnson's fingerprints are all over them. And I'm included in that.
I'm included in that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be who I was without
all
them.
of us, all of us. All right, time's just about getting away from us. Very quickly, Richard, what's coming up in the magazine?
Well, right now, the one you just held up, we did a profile of Skip Austin, who was one of the co-founders of the Civil Rights Museum Center in Greensboro. And in March, we're focusing on the 130th anniversary of North Carolina A&T State University, which is the largest HBCU in the country.
Looking forward to it. Up on screen, blackbusinessinc.com. Be sure to put a K in there. It's not a C, blackbusinessinc.com. Please check that out. And if you need some help and advice and need to contact the guys, Daggett Schuler, go to daggettschulerlaw.com or call 724-1234. Gentlemen, will you come back sometime? This was a great assembly. I appreciate your work.
Thanks, Jim, and thank you, Richard.
Thanks,
Thank
Richard.
you, guys. Thank you, guys.
All right. We'll be right back. Get your magazine. On Triad Today, just about time for the roundtable, but a quick shout out to our good folks here at the Senior Botanical Garden for hosting us throughout the pandemic. And their website's on screen, seniorbotanicalgarden.org. Hope you'll visit it. And also thanks to, I don't know if we can have a wide shot or not, but they made us this little sign there for Triad Today logo display with the flowers. We appreciate that. Now, to guys that have been deflowered long ago, I don't know what that means. Ogie Overman, it's a horticulture term.
Oh, I see.
Ogie Overman, the broadcaster, great broadcaster journalist. Back behind him, we held David Daggett over from his segment and talking about some great leaders who had passed away. David Daggett's here, and to Keith Granberry, founder of Helping Hands Consultants. Guys, our health czar here in the state, Mandy Cohen, now admits that 27,000 people who have been vaccinated in North Carolina thus far actually crossed over the border, mainly from South Carolina, to get the vaccine. Here's the question. Shouldn't vaccines that are allocated to each state only go to people who are residents in that state? Ogie Overman.
No, I don't think so, Jim. I know people who've gone to Virginia to get the shot. It's a cooperative program. We've all got to get the shot eventually. It's not a competitive thing like it was under the former guy.
David?
As you know, I've participated in the Moderna study. Just yesterday, I was able to ask the doctor that question.
What did he say?
And he said this is a national rollout program, that the more people we get vaccinated, the better it helps. Yes, we'd like our people in our state. However, what's good for the whole is good for all of us.
Keith, give me the other side of this, though. What about access problem? What if somebody's having trouble with transportation, they're trying to work out a time to get the thing, and then they go up to, sorry, we're out of vaccines, and then they read in the paper that these people got it from South Carolina?
Well, there's another part of it. I think number one is the education about the vaccine, because many people in communities are scared of being vaccinated because we know the history of vaccination amongst minorities, specifically black people. But I think we have to really educate them and create a system where people from low-income areas are vaccinated and educated, and I think that's the major problem.
All right, earlier in the program we had the police chief and sheriff on, of course. We're talking about public safety issues. I want to go into something that was a headline in the paper a few days ago. As you know, there's been a lot of talk about cutting back and defunding police. Some of the state lawmakers now want to make it a law that if a city cuts back any of their police funding, that city will have its government funding cut back. Ogie, reaction?
I didn't know that. That's absurd. On the face of it, that's absurd.
David?
I don't think those questions are yes or no answers. Different communities respond differently. They've got different history. They have different structure. I think we are so blessed to have Sheriff Kimbrough and Chief Thompson in Winston-Salem. I think we've done a pretty good job of navigating these waters. Not everybody has. They need different action. So a blanket rule like that, I don't think is a win-win.
Right, and Keith, on a really serious and sad note, I know you lost a friend to some senseless gun violence a few days ago, and that sort of goes with this theme of law and order, so maybe just address that in a few seconds.
Well, I think number one, we have to look at community policing, get people from the community who are from that community to be police officers, and I think instead of defunding the police. But a young man who I met at the Urban League when I was the president, his name is T.R. Eugene Terry, lost his life in a senseless death over the weekend. And it's just a sad, sad situation when someone who was working as a manager at CVS and such full of life loses their life. So you have to have people from that community that can solve those crimes like that.
Yeah.
Because it's a travesty someone lost their life in such a senseless death at age 35.
It is
just tragic.
It is, and we're sorry for your loss there. Governor Cooper is, to change the subject a little bit, is still allowing schools to operate under 3 different plans. One of those is doing some online learning, but the House has passed a bill saying you cannot now have just online learning only. We're going to end that. Are you okay with that, guys? I mean, or should school superintendents and parents have the option to just anytime they want to go to the online?
Well, we've got to work toward that, Jim, but you can't just eliminate it across the board. It just, a typical Republican response to it, knee-jerk.
I don't think this is a yes or no. Different education's local. Different communities are different. They have different problems. They have different issues they're dealing with, different funding that they're dealing with, which is a problem. But I don't think it's a yes or no answer.
Keith?
Give me the question again.
It's hard to hear because we're in sort of an echo chamber here, but the Governor Cooper wants to let you have online learning if you need to. There's a bill out now that says you can't just have online learning. We got to start getting back into the classroom. Should parents still have an option to do online?
Well, I think until we are able to get this virus under control, they absolutely should have an option to get it.
All right.
Absolutely.
Now, Virginia is about to become the 16th state to legalize the use of recreational marijuana, the first in the South to do so. Will our lawmakers here in North Carolina, guys, be okay with just letting our residents drive up to Virginia and spend their money? Or will they finally get off their backsides and legalize pot perhaps this year? Ogie?
They should, yeah. I mean, it's time. It really is time. People will go to Virginia, even though it'll be against the law to take it across state lines. People do it anyway.
They'll do it anyway.
Let's go ahead and legalize.
David?
I don't disagree with that. I don't think the science has quite caught up with legalizing marijuana. For example, a police officer stops somebody for drinking and driving. They have very definitive metrics that they can look at to make a determination. They can't do that yet with marijuana. I think we have to evolve scientifically, and then we make that step.
Number one, the people are going to go to Virginia. Number two, they should legalize it. Number three, they won't.
All right, guys, finally, you're going to love this one. A Tennessee man who died late last year, true story, has left $5 million to his dog in a trust fund. Guys, if you had $5 million to leave, would you leave it to a dog? And if not, then to who? Ogie Overman.
Jim, when I worked at the High Point Enterprise, Randall Terry, the publisher, died and left his fortune to his dogs.
Seriously.
6 dogs. And that left a very, very bad taste among the employees.
You
of the
didn't, yeah,
enterprise.
the employees didn't get it. David Daggett.
I believe in leaving your money to charities that can help the community be better after you're gone.
And if you wanted to, you could leave it to the Humane Society or
Sure,
something. But
sure.
Keith, would you leave your $5 million to a dog?
I absolutely. Why you laughing?
Well, you're the one with $5 million, and I would be interested in being your heir if I could.
So you wouldn't leave it to a dog?
No, I wouldn't leave
All
it
right.
to a dog, nor would a dog leave it to me either.
No. All right. All right. Well, anyway, that's all I'm going to leave all mine to Ogie. That's all the time we have. Oh, except for this. A team of zoologists who study invertebrates have now officially determined that there are 1 million species that don't have a spine. Well, 1,000,001 if you count Senate Republicans.
There you go. Yes.
You liked that, didn't you, Ogie? All right, for all of us here on
True.
Try Today, I'm going to go
true.
leave my money to Keith. See you